Okay, we should be live. Well, got myself all cleaned up, got the itch washed off. I was spent most of the day taking insulation off of ductwork, and even if you're not sensitive to fiberglass, you get enough on you, you're going to get itchy. But fortunately, I got her all scrubbed off.
Spent most of the day taking insulation off of ductwork, and even if you're not sensitive to fiberglass,
Hang on,
you get enough on you, you're going to get itchy.
There we go. Didn't know that was on. Anyway, now there's just one of me talking. The subject today is, can I burn cast iron clean? Yeah, I get asked that quite a bit, and a lot of people advocate it. They do it themselves, and you can, but it comes at a cost. There is risks involved, especially if you throw them in a bonfire or what am I trying to say? Especially if you throw them on a bonfire or a barbecue grill, because the heat isn't terribly even. You got a lot of draft coming into it, and you run the risk of overheating it, warping it, cracking it. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. Even putting it in a electric oven with a self-cleaning feature and putting it on the clean mode, it will burn the stuff off of it, but it tends to leave them kind of rusty. But more than that, let me grab an example here. Where did I set that? Burning it off in a fire, especially an open fire, it changes the metal. Now, this is a pan. This has been through my electrolysis tank and lye bath, and it's all cleaned up. But you see, it's got kind of a mottled appearance to it, and I'm not sure how good it's going to show on the light. Right in here, you can see there's kind of a reddish, rusty-looking area. It's not really rusty, but it's got a definite rustiness look to it. And if you could see this in person, you'd be able to see, well, you can kind of see, the texture on the inside of it changes. Some spots are really machine smooth, and other spots, well, it's not rough and pitted. It doesn't have the same smoothness. There's a lot more texture to it. And this is because cast iron has a certain amount of carbon and graphite incorporated into the metal. And when you heat it, especially with enough oxygen, and you burn it hot enough, you can actually burn that carbon out of the metal. And it will change the consistency, probably the best word for it. It'll change the structure of the metal. You'll actually burn that carbon out, and it'll leave it pitted, and it'll oxidize deeper into those tiny little microscopic pits, and you have a hard time getting that rust out. It's almost impossible. And since it's heated unevenly, it'll put stress on the metal, which can cause it to warp or crack, especially if it's a very light, thin pan. A big, heavy lodge skillet, you're probably not going to have any problems burning that off. It's unlikely to cause any problems. I see a lot of people do it, and they come out fine, but you still get the changes in the metal itself. You'll get areas that are harder and more brittle than the areas next to it, and that can cause problems. And they can be tough to season, but you can certainly use pans that have been burned off and or been through a house fire, something like that. If you happen to have disaster strike or know somebody that does, and you're trying to salvage their cast iron, it can still be used. This pan had a huge buildup of stuff on it. It had been used for decades and decades after it had been burned, so it's still usable. It can be tough to get it to take seasoning because the metal isn't consistent all the way across the surface, and you're not going to get a consistent absorption of the seasoning, and it's going to cause problems, like I say. But it's really not a good idea. Even in a electric oven, once the carbon gets to where the carbon starts to burn a little bit, or really oxidize or slowly burn, it gets a lot hotter than the oven itself. I think it's about 700 degrees that a self-cleaning cycle runs at. But once you get the carbon cooking, get it burning off, it can get up to 1,000, 1,200 degrees, and that's really too hot for iron, because once you start getting it that hot, you're going to start running into problems. Or even worse, you could do like my wife did once. She threw a pan in the wood stove to burn it off. Forgot it was in there, threw a big chunk of wood in on top of it a couple hours later and broke it in half. So while it is possible, it's really not recommended, especially if it's an older, vintage skillet. You don't want to mess it up. Like a new heavy Lodge, like I said, yeah, you can get away with it, and you probably won't have problems. But something that's a little more valuable, you don't want to do that. So I really don't recommend it. I have done it in the past, but I don't do it anymore because there are better ways of doing it that you're not going to have any sort of risk with. So don't burn your pans or don't run them through the self-cleaning cycle. It's not really a good idea. It's possible, but you probably shouldn't. But this is a nice pan. It's the bottom half. There's a hinged skillet lid that goes with this, which I have. I think I have one, might be nickel plated. I can't remember which I got. And I found one. It was a nickel plated one, or if it was a plate iron that matches this. So that'll be an actual set when I get this all finished up and get the other part done. Something else I found this weekend, really cool. Got it at a thrift sale for 25 bucks. This, take my camera down a little bit so you can see it more, is a fruit press. I'm pretty sure this is a Wagner ware because Wagner's had this really cool hinged handle on it. There's a latch. Let me get it off here. I'll show you closely. There's a latch on the handle, so you don't have to screw it all the way down to start pressing on it. You can just flip the latch open, clamp your handle around the threaded rod part, and crank it down from there. Needs a little bit more work because that's really irritating. This is a 6-quart. There's a 6 on the bottom of this base piece, but there's numbers all over it. There's a 12 and an 18. A couple of places it's stamped 18 on the handle. There's a 12 here somewhere too. But I got it. It was pretty rusty. I run it through the electrolysis tank once, and I'll show you all the parts. First, you got the outside tub. It's tin-plated sheet metal. It cleaned up pretty good. You can see the tin is kind of gone in a lot of places, but it cleaned up pretty nice, and I'll give it some more cleaning before I use it. And this is the inner part. Whoops. It's falling apart on me. The inner basket cleaned up just beautifully. I mean, that is in just fantastic condition once I got her all cleaned up. And it's got the cast iron stomper that goes on there, and you squeeze that down. And I know when this was patented August 20th, 1912. That's another reason why I'm pretty sure this is a Wagner ware, because Wagner used that font on a lot of their earlier stuff. I think this part might be steel, but the base is definitely cast iron, and that rod, of course, is steel. And I've looked them up, and I've seen a picture of it in the in some of my reference books, and it had a Wagner ware logo on the outside tin, but it's not really clear if that was stamped in or if that was just like a painted label or a paper label on the outside. I don't really know. I haven't got around to looking up more and see if I can find something to compare it to. But you see there's a number 6 on the bottom there. And another little slick deal. It's got holes in the feet so you can bolt it down to your table. But on the spout, there's little notches to hang the bail of your bucket on so your bucket doesn't fall off. What method did I use to clean the tin? I ran that through my electrolysis tank. It was pretty rusty, and I couldn't really tell that there was any plating left on it at all, or if it even been plated to begin with. But once I ran it through electrolysis and scrubbed it up with a little steel wool, you can see that it cleaned up real nice. And I got to run it through again. You can kind of see this is a little bit too big to fit in the tank I got. You can see right where the water line on my electrolysis tank was on that. And I'm going to hit this again, but that is going to be just handier than hell once the fruits and berries start coming into season around here. Let me put her back together a little bit here. But yeah, you put the inner basket is a little bit out of round, so the Stomper doesn't quite fit perfectly in on the top. You got to kind of wiggle it in there a little bit to get it started. Once it's inside, it slides good, so that's not a problem. And there's a rim on the bottom so you don't push it all the way through. And that goes. What are you coughing up, Milo? I don't need you. Slide that all back together. And yeah, like I say, this just clamps around there, and I got it upside down. There we go. It goes that way. Just clamp that around there, flip your lock, and you're ready to squeeze with it. What do I use to season my cast iron? And how often do you need to do it? The seasoning is really an ongoing process as you use it. When you first restore a pan, or if you have a new pan that you want to season, one that's been stripped down to bare metal, you can use whatever cooking oil you normally use to cook with. That works just fine. I've been using a product called Easy Beasy. There's a guy, Steven Strawn, he has a channel called Cast Iron Cookware here on YouTube. And it's a beeswax and grapeseed and one other oil that I forget what it is exactly. It comes in a stick, and that works really great for your initial seasoning when you put your seasoning on, bake it in an oven. Once you do 2 or 3 coats of that, you shouldn't really need to re-season it. If you're using it fairly regular, it'll stay right where it is. You're not going to have to, it's not something you have to redo every few months because it wears off. Because like I said, it's really an ongoing process as you use it. It's constantly adding seasoning to the pan, constantly wearing seasoning off, and it cycles through. I'm going to back up a little bit here because I missed a few comments. But yeah, I like the Easy Beasy stuff. It gives it a good it gives a good base coat to start with, and once you even with that or any way that you season it in the oven, you need to break it in with something. I use potatoes the first time I cook something in a cast iron because the starch helps to season them good. A lot of people recommend bacon, which is good too, but I prefer potatoes because potatoes almost never stick anyway, unless you really throw them in there dry and you don't have any oil in there at all, then they might stick to it, but they don't they don't stick, and it helps to season them up good. Yeah, you wish you could burn a lot of things clean like your bathroom. Yeah, I've considered torching the place more than once just to get it cleaned up. Hi, Rebecca from East Texas and Cadwin. Deb's Way, you're here. Nice to see you. Yeah, hi, Ron. Michelle Wilkinson from Arkansas. Joe Perry, greetings, Joe. Yeah, as a collector, you shouldn't burn off cast iron. If it's just some old camp pan, like I say, a new lodge, you're probably not going to hurt it, but it's still a bad idea, and I recommend you don't do it. Oh, you got a stove like mine, a wood, coal, gas. Yeah, there's some pretty cool combination stoves out there. Would I season the base of the juicer? Yeah, the base and that Stomper, I'll probably season those like I would a skillet, and the handle too. The rest of it, the tin plated part, that's pretty good to go right like it is. My favorite brand. Well, kind of hard to say. I got a lot of Wagner. I like a lot of old Wagner ware stuff. But I'm interested in pretty much any of it. Whatever I come across. I'm sort of more of a type collector. Some people want to have one of every size of a particular logo from a particular company, but I'd rather have one or two nice examples of something specific. Have one or two nice examples of that and have a whole bunch of, different manufacturers. Yeah, like I said, I guess I kind of prefer Wagner a little bit more, but it's nothing, not stuck on any particular brand. Wapak is kind of cool, just because they were such an interesting sort of an outfit. You find a lot of ghost marked Wapak stuff, and they're kind of a fly by night operation, and that appeals to me. They made some pretty good stuff, but there's so much variations in it. If you ever did try to put together a complete set of every possible example, you'd drive yourself just nuts trying to do it. Oh, your grandbabies are arriving? Well, have fun with your grandbabies. Yeah, Rebecca, potatoes. Because the starch, as you fry the potatoes, they'll shed little microscopic grains of starch, and that starch will work into the cracks and crevices in the surface of the iron and embed in it. And over time, they'll carbonize, and that's why cast iron pans turn black. Is carbonized oil, carbonized food. Not food residue like you're leaving crap on it, but it is food residue, bits of starch and proteins that get worked into it, and that turns to carbon, which fills in the little cracks and crevices and pits in the surface of the iron. And then you have a little bit of a layer of polymerized oil over the top of that. Fat over time with heat and time and exposure to air and sun, it will turn basically to sort of a plastic or a varnish type of substance. The molecules will join together and form long chains. That's what polymerization is. And that's what gives you kind of the, smooth, slick surface. But that wears off pretty fast, and eventually the polymerized oil will carbonize, and it all, like I said, it's an ongoing dynamic sort of a process. But yeah, I like the potatoes. Let's see. I got the thirsties going for me. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer you as best I can. But I can't wait to play with this thing once the blackberries come ripe. I've got a couple of mesh bags I think will fit in there good, and that'll really strain the seeds out. They can make some nice seedless blackberry jam, because it's kind of nice now and then to have blackberry jam that doesn't have tons and tons of seeds in it. And these are wild blackberries, so they're kind of seedy anyway. Oh, hey, John. Good to see you. And I'm sure there's other things that you can press and squeeze in that. My grapes died off a few years ago. They winter killed. Their Concord grapes are pretty hardy, and the vines are coming back, but I haven't got any grapes off them yet, so I don't think I'm going to have any grapes to be squeezing for a few years. But the vines are starting to flourish on them again. And now that I got something like this, I'm sure I'll be able to come up with all kinds of different things that I could press and squeeze and smash. Griswold made presses like these too, only it was a different design. Instead of having a screw in the center and a stomper like that, they had bars that came up over the top, and it had a crossbar, and then it screwed down from that. The screw was threaded through the crossbar, and this part would stay still basically, and it would screw the plunger down into into the basket. And those are pretty cool. They also, I see in the Wagner book, there was a sausage stuffing attachment for this. It was basically a plate that you would set inside of here that had a spout, and I imagine you would take out, or it might have had a solid inside basket. I don't know for sure. It didn't really show much detail on it, but you could fill this up with ground meat, and you could use this for a sausage stuffer too, which would be pretty slick to find if you could ever come across, the attachment for it. Because it's basically another cast iron plate that sat in the bottom, and then the tube would come out inside in the spout. I imagine there are a lot of them things. If you saw one, if you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know what the hell it was. So any of them that are floating around probably got tossed decades ago. It'd be a hard thing to find, I would think. Or maybe not. You never know. But somewhere up in my attic, let's see if I can dig it out one of these days. I have a sausage stuffer, one of the kind of, they're kind of a U-shaped sausage stuffer, and they have the lever with the plunger on it, that forces your meat into the spout. I'm not sure if it has actually has a spout for it, though. I'd have to look and see. Well, I'd find the damn thing in the attic. It's buried up there somewhere amongst all the junk that's been stored in the attic over the years. Yeah, it's a nice place. I like it here. It's why I stay. And wood burning stove, yeah, baking muffins. Yeah, I'm starting to figure out baking in it. We had this in the house before. I took it out probably about 20 years ago and started it in the shed, and I just brought it back in last fall, cleaned it up and fixed it up and got her going again. And before, I was pretty good at cooking on top of it, but I was never all that great at baking with it, and I'm just now starting to get the hang of it again. So there's a lot of things I'll have to try baking in it, and it's going to be a learning experience. But I finally figured out I got to cover bread with tin foil to keep it from getting overdone, because the radiant heat is so intense in there. Even if the temperature is, isn't too high, it still gets just blasted with so much radiant heat on top that it tends to overcook the crust on top before the bread is really done inside. But I finally worked around that enough, so I think I'm ready to try the next step. I don't think I'm up to trying a souffle or anything like that in there yet, but maybe someday I'll get mastery of it to where I can. Oh, and hey Frank, how's everything going with you? What's up? Well, I'm doing my fancy schmancy little live show here. I figured out what I'm going to for the second giveaway item for my outright bribery, trying to get more channel members. I can't show it to you because it's out in the live bath right now, and I'll have it all restored over the weekend. So I'll show that to you next time on the next show. But it's something a lot of people have been mentioning. Oh, hey, I wish I had one of those. You might be able to guess what it is, because if you're a regular viewer. Well, Frank, I'm doing well. Slaving away working. Had to play with fiberglass insulation most of the day, so that wasn't terribly fun, but it could be worse. I've done a lot worse for a living. Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. And I wouldn't have it any other way living out here in the boonies. Because large cornbread pan, no. And you can see let's see if I can get my finger under it. No, I can't. But you can see the corn stick pan hanging there. That nickel plated one, that's up for grabs. Or will be as soon as I get to 20 channel members. Only a few more to go. But no, Brenda, it ain't the cornbread pan. Something else a lot of people have been saying, oh, gee, I'll try and get me one of them. It's a pretty decent one. It's an imported item, but it's pretty high quality. It's decent iron, nice and smooth. Round griddle? Nope, not the round griddle. I'll just tell you, it's Abelskever pan. I come across one fairly cheap and figured, well, hey, that'd be just the thing for a giveaway, because a lot of people really seem to have liked the Abelskever video, and we're interested in trying to find one. So I will provide one as soon as it's out of the lye bath and all cleaned up and reseasoned. And once I get to, yes, James, it is the Abelskever pan, not the one I used in the video, but it's a different one. But it's a pretty nice one. Definitely worth the price. And I found a source of metal for my bigger electrolysis tank. Looking around, I was going to use sheet metal for it, and I have quite a bit of sheet metal here, but it's all galvanized, and I didn't want to use galvanized for it. I just want plain bare iron. And buying sheet metal, the prices have been up and down and up and down, and right now they're pretty up. So getting enough, new sheet metal for it would have cost probably about 40 or 50 bucks. But I found at a junk store, it's like a rolling file cabinet, only they called it a rolling shelf. It's basically a file cabinet with one shelf inside and a door on it. And it's painted steel, but it's not galvanized. And I can deal with paint easy enough. That isn't a problem. And there should be plenty of metal there to do what I need to do. And I got it for 10 bucks. So there's 10 bucks worth of steel. And I'll be moving forward on that. Probably not this weekend. I'm still working on vehicles and a couple other projects. Got to fix my lawnmower before my lawn is waist high again. How to get the paint off? I'll probably burn it off with I got a big weed burner torch. I'll probably just burn the paint off of it. It'll stink for a while, but that ain't too bad. It's been a little too dry. We got some pretty good rain over the weekend finally. I mean, it had been real dry for a month. There were burning bans on everything. Otherwise, I'd just thrown it in the brush pile and burned it. But it's probably need more rain before the DNR lightens up on the burning restrictions a bit. So I'll just take the weed burner torch to it and fry the paint off of it, and then just buff it up with a wire brush. And then I'll be in business with that. Can finally get underway with that little project. One of the many, many things I have to do. There's never enough time to do things. And when you do have time, you don't have any money to do the things that you need to do. So it's always a pain. Oh yeah, you get one of them weed burners, you'll wonder how in the hell he managed to live without it for so long. What region of the country am I in? I'm in northern Wisconsin. My favorite modern skillet? Yeah, 30-gallon stainless honey extractor would work good too. Let's see. My favorite modern skillet? Lodge is probably the best of the newer ones, as far as value goes. They're fairly inexpensive. You can find them anywhere, and they're good solid pans. They're a bit heavy, and a lot of people don't really care for the texture, but you can't go wrong with them. I haven't had the money to try out the more kind of boutique brands like Stargazer and Finex. And even when you find them used, they usually go for pretty good money. So I'm just too damn cheap to buy one. Brand new, there's a couple, and they start getting up around a couple $100 a piece for I think it's Butter Pat is probably the most expensive one. It's been a while since I looked at the prices, so don't hold me to it. Most of the higher end current production cast iron go from about $125 on up for a 10-inch pan. And usually if I'm going to spend that much money, it'll be on a couple of old vintage ones. Temps around 108 in Southern Oregon. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I've considered using a plastic stock tank for an electrolysis tank. I'll see how well that battery charger I got runs more than one thing at a time, and if it can handle 2 or 3 pans at a time, I'll probably eventually work my way up to something like that, like a 60 or 80 gallon plastic stock tank. The flattest state? Well, not really. Well, there are some fairly flat areas, like in the central, and mostly in the central it's fairly flat. But you get down in the southwestern corner, it's pretty hilly. It's hilly up here. We're in the Ice Age country around here. This is where the glacier gave up last time it came through. So it's all hills and ridges and moraines and such. Yeah, Kansas is way flatter. Or western Minnesota out into the Dakotas. Yeah, remember that show Little House on the Prairie? That always drove me just nuts. I've been to the part of Minnesota where this was supposed to have happened, and it's like standing on a pool table. I mean, somebody could walk for days, and you could still see them without going over the horizon. And every time the kids would run away from home, after a couple of days, they'd wind up in the mountains. I mean, the kids would have been gone for 4 or 5 months to get anywhere even remotely hilly. But that's just me. Yeah, I must have been there then. It was 36. Yeah, like I say, the pretty much the central and kind of south central. It gets pretty flat, but most of it's relatively hilly. You get up, been in Minnesota twice, no mountains. Yeah, I mean, especially southern, southwestern, western Minnesota. It's plains. I mean, you're getting into the plain country out there already. Far north Minnesota and the eastern part, it's fairly hilly. But yeah, you get halfway through Minnesota, I mean, you're getting into the Great Plains, and it's dead flat for most of it. And yeah, there ain't many mountains in Minnesota. Yeah, northern Illinois too is fairly flat. There's some, valleys cutting through there, but a lot of it's fairly level ground. Yeah, Oklahoma, that's pretty dead flat. Only caught the corner of Oklahoma. I never really got much into it. Been through the Dakotas and Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, barely into Montana too a little bit. But yeah, I just caught a little bit of Oklahoma one time passing through. Yeah, all over the mountain life. Porcupines in Michigan. Yeah, the Porcupine Hills, those come down into Wisconsin too. And actually, those are some of the some of the oldest mountains in the world. They're I forget exactly when they're supposed to have been formed, but they're part of the original, one of the original continents before, when it was all one continent, before everything started breaking up and into different continents. And they're millions and millions and millions of years old. You know, what they are is what's left of a big, huge mountain range. Own no cast iron. What do I suggest starting off with? 2 people, no skillet, burgers, small steaks. Starting off, get a like a 10-inch, 10.5 inch. That'd be a number 8 skillet of whatever brand. If you're looking to buy something brand new, get yourself a Lodge. Don't try and go cheap with some really imported stuff. Some of it's good, some of it's not. But you have to get a little bit of a knack for spotting what good iron looks like and what bad is. So if you find some, $3 made in Taiwan pan somewhere, probably best to pass it up and just go with a Lodge. And they're not very expensive. Number 8, 10.5 inch Lodge, I think is $25 brand new, 25 bucks in there somewhere. Across a mountain in your backyard, you'll be in Yellowstone. Ah, cool. Yeah, a nice 3-notch Lodge. And you can still find, vintage pans fairly inexpensive with some hunting around. You can find them in once in a while you come across them in secondhand stores. That's where I get a lot of my stuff. Even antique shops, you'll pay more of a retail price for something like that, but you can do pretty good on that a lot of times. Yeah, I got a bunch of videos on spotting iron and what to look for. If you want something you can try out right away and you don't have to go hunting around for it, just go down. And you can buy a Lodge pretty much anywhere. They carry it at Walmart. A lot of places that carry camping supplies carry a Lodge cast iron. Pretty much anywhere that carries cookware will have a Lodge display. They might not have each and every item that they make, but they usually have several sizes of skillets and Dutch ovens, the basic stuff. Yeah, if there's a lot of estate sales and thrift sales every weekend, you can probably find something pretty decent. Yeah, circle of life. Yeah, you start seeing a lot of more cast iron coming out of the market and coming into, Goodwill and stuff like that because, well, grandma didn't make it through the winter. It sounds kind of ghoulish, but, it's just how it is. Something out of the porch making odd noises. Got my swallows back. I have barn swallows that come back and nest on my porch every year. They're a little bit late this year. They've been back for about 2 or 3 weeks. They usually come in around the middle of May. It was more towards the first week in June when they finally showed up this time. Once the bugs are in full swing. Yeah, the one drawback for lodges is fairly heavy, but at least the larger sizes have the helper handle on them, so you can use both hands, which is nice. West of the 48th parallel for flat. Yeah, it gets pretty flat from about central Minnesota until you hit the Rockies. All the way from Texas all the way up into Canada. It's just one big flat spot on the map. What are you chewing on, dog? He's licking the floor. I don't know what the hell could have possibly got spilled there. But there's something there that he's intensely interested in. I can see if it was right around my chair where I'm dropping bits and pieces when I'm eating, playing around on the computer, but shouldn't be anything over there. Maybe it's time to break out the mop and scrub the floor again. The dog's trying to tell me something. Then again, I don't need a dog criticizing my housekeeping. I know how bad it is. Yeah, Hawaii ain't flat. Kind of hard pressed to find flat spots on Hawaii, short of making your own. And even if you do, well, eventually there's going to be lava running across it and turning it back into a mountain. Jesus, dog. What, married 30 years ago in Hawaii? Well, that's good. Not much cast iron in Hawaii. No, I don't suppose there is. Eastern Kansas is hilly. Yeah, you're getting towards the, towards the river valleys over that way. And there's hill countries in Texas too, but a lot of it's flatter than a pancake. Where are you going, you silly mutt? And I was going to try and crawl under my feet. Are you done licking the floor over there? Jeez. Anyway, kind of ramble a little bit here. Yeah, we got to get back on track here. Yeah, I'm hoping to play with this thing over the summer. That'll be a lot of fun. Whataburger? No, we don't have Whataburgers around here. There used to be a Sonic in Eau Claire, but they closed that down. Mostly our big thing around here is Culver's. They started in Wisconsin, and they've been slowly spreading. I guess they're finally getting them down south too, getting them down into Texas, and I think somebody said there was some in Alabama. They got pretty good stuff. Yeah, hills around here. Yeah, like I said, around here, this is all, it's Ice Age country. There's a National Scientific Reserve. In fact, it's not really a park, but there's a lot of DNR land and public land around here. And pretty interesting, especially in the wintertime when you can actually see the lay of the land a little better and the trees aren't all leafed out. And some pretty surprisingly deep holes and ridges around here. In fact, the little lake out in front of my house is it's a classic glacial pothole. You wouldn't think it to look at it, but it's about 35, 40 feet deep out at the deepest part. It's like a big trench down the middle. And it starts off from the shore. It's, 3 or 4 feet deep. Then it drops straight off to about 15 feet. Then it kind of shelves out a little bit, then drops straight off to 30 or 40. So it's kind of a dangerous lake if you were out there over, playing around on the ice and fell through. Getting hot down here, you need to move to Alaska. Well, depends on how cold you like your winters, I guess, and how dark. Of course, this time of year, you got, 20 hours of sunlight in most of Alaska, or southern part anyway, once you get on the north slope. It's damn near 24 hours a day up there now. I don't know if I could handle that. That'd drive me about nuts. Yeah, I got a little lake out front, and there's a smaller pond out on the other side. I got water on basically 3 sides of me. My house sits kind of at the end of a low ridge, and the ridge kind of comes down out of the woods. Then there's a flat area where the house and stuff is, and then there's a lake and a pond around it, and a little bit of a swamp over on this side. So I'm pretty much surrounded. Not quite an island, but not far from it, really. Yeah, stationed in Fairbanks for 3 years. Yeah, 60 below is pretty chilly. Yeah, I mean 30 or 40 below is bad enough. Yeah, waiting for dark this time of year in Alaska wouldn't work good. But of course, in the winter, if you waited till sunrise to come up, you get a lot more sleep. Yeah, cutting the grass at midnight. Yeah, for the most part, it ain't. Unless you're getting up near the Arctic Circle. But down along the southern coast of Alaska, it ain't too bad for the most part. It depends on the altitude a lot too. And which side of the mountain ranges you're on. You only sleep 3 hours a day anyway. Well, it'd be just about perfect for you then. I gotta have more than that. I get less than 6. I start dragging by the end of the week, which is kind of what I'm doing now, because we're working 10s and 12s for the most part. And by the time I get to bed, I have to get up again at 3:30 in the morning. Get to bed about 9. And that's okay for about 3 or 4 days, and then by the end of the week, I'm just dragging, tired and sleepy, can't quite wake up. Night shift, trick aluminum foil and blackout curtains. Yeah, of course, aluminum foil on the window makes it look like you're a tweaker, though. Myself, I always preferred working second shift, because just left to my own devices, I'll be up till 2 or 3 in the morning and then sleep till 9 or 10. It's just the way my natural rhythms work. I had a great uncle who was like that years and years ago, and he was a farmer, and most people would milk at 6 in the morning and 6 at night, or 5 and 5, depending on what they're doing. And he finally just gave it up and started milking at noon and midnight, because he couldn't fall asleep till 2 or 3 in the morning. He'd sleep good when he was ready to go to bed. It just that he had no desire to sleep until the wee hours of the morning, so he just said to hell with it, started milking his cows at noon and midnight. There's plenty enough daylight, getting up at 8 or 9, especially in summertime, to get things done outside. So yeah, Montana, North Dakota hit 60 below most years. Yeah, and you got the wind out there too. I mean, around here, the wind chill ain't nearly as bad as it is out there in the open country. I've been everywhere, man. Yeah. Yeah, I've been a lot of places, but not all that many. Yeah, with rotating swing shifts, that's a pain. That just drive me nuts. I had a job last winter for a few weeks. We were doing some demolition work in a hospital, and we had to do it at night. So we'd start at 6 at night, and we'd work till 4 in the morning, working 10-hour shifts. And it really screwed you up because, not because you're working at night. It was because you would come home from work, and then you turn around and go back, and it would still be the same day. Usually you get home from work, get up, go back to work. It's the next day. But coming and going on the same day, after a couple of days, you had no idea what the hell day it was. I mean, you got to stop and think for a while. Is it still Wednesday, or no? It's after midnight, so it's Thursday. Yeah, it is Thursday, ain't it? It was weird as hell. Like I said, I didn't mind working the hours, but yeah, that being at work twice in the same day really screws you up. Yeah, fall asleep 4 or 5, or 3 hours later, you're up. Yeah, I just I need more sleep than that. Hey, from Newfoundland. Got a Newfie watching us. That's always nice to have now and then. Yeah, it's always nice to hear from other parts of the world. Yeah, I've been quite a few places, mostly, upper Midwest, some out into the Dakotas, nothing too terribly far. I haven't been across the Continental Divide, so I haven't got to that part of the country yet. Been down south a bit, down into Alabama for a while, but never been on the East Coast much either. Closest I got into that, I got into a little bit of the panhandle of Florida, but none of the East Coast states I've been to. Well, Mark Sims is in Alabama. Hi, Mark. Hello from Wisconsin. Well, we're getting close to an hour here, so I'm going to wrap it up pretty soon. Got a few minutes left. And, like I said, we're still pushing for that 20 channel member mark, and we'll have the big giveaway then. The Abelskeever pan, I'll show you that next time around. That'll be all seasoned up and ready to go by then. And that try to avoid the coast like plague. Yeah, I don't have any need to go out there. I should probably get to Washington one of these days. One of my kids is living out there. Yeah, putting the nickel-plated Wagner in the lye tank. Yeah, lye and oven cleaner don't affect nickel and chrome, so you can go ahead and clean them up with that. Worked in DC for a minute. Aluminum foil blackout trick in an Elvis documentary. Yeah, it does work good. Makes people wonder what you're up to inside the house, though. Anyway, yeah, once I hit 20 subscribers, we got that nickel-plated Wagnerware corn stick pan hanging on the wall there. You can see, be in the upper right-hand side of your screen, on your screen. And a nice little Abelskeever pan. I'll show that to you later. And I'm going to wrap it up here and say goodnight to y'all. It was nice to see Melissa and Mark Sims from Alabama and T. Smith from Newfoundland up there in Canada. And hopefully you'll come back and join me again next week when we'll have some other topics to discuss and sit around and chat and answer any questions you come up with. The cymbal alloys. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about cymbals. I ain't terribly musical. But anyway, good night, and I'll see y'all next time.